You may remember in 2010, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill occurred on a BP-operated rig. It is now still considered the largest accidental marine oil spill in the history of the petroleum industry. And some of those damaging effects are still being felt all around the Gulf of Mexico, especially here in Tampa Bay. Tonight, our guest is an attorney who works for those who are filing claims against BP. Tom Young joins us here in studio to update us on the situation. Tom, this really isn't what people think. There's a lot of information we need to get out there. So let's start with, what are the effects that we're seeing now? Currently, is the oil still out there?
The oil is absolutely still out there. Various estimates, but probably about 200 million gallons of oil were released in those 87 days when the well was uncapped. Most of it has never been collected. A lot of it was dispersed with chemical elements that BP introduced into the flow, and there's some various toxic issues involved with that. But most of it's still out there.
Is it sitting on the bottom?
A lot of it is likely on the bottom. A few weeks ago, some researchers found a 1,200 square mile area of the Gulf covered with oil, and that was the first significant find. Some of it still washes up on the beaches, particularly in the Panhandle. On a daily basis, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection sends a team out, and they come back with hundreds of these little small tar balls, which have been tested and are confirmed to come from the site.
And that's current. That's
it happens
not a year
every day.
ago.
4 years later, it is happening every day, and it will happen in perpetuity, most likely.
Wow. So you're hoping to educate people on, if they think they could file a claim, if they don't know if they could file a claim, who are the people you're trying to reach?
Well, every business owner in the west coast of Florida, on coastal counties, so Citrus County, Hernando, Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough, Manatee, Sarasota, any Gulf Coast county that touches the Gulf of Mexico. If you're a business owner in one of those counties, you are by definition a claimant. You are part of this compensation program. All the way inland to the eastern county line, so Dade City, Plant City, Brandon, people 20, 30, 40 miles inland. But they may ask, well, how was I possibly affected economically? And studies have shown, one recently by Harvard University, that this area, our area, the Tampa Bay area, was devastated. Not necessarily environmentally, although those questions are still out there, but from an economic point of view, development stopped, construction stopped, deals stopped, and all the people that count on the economic engine were out of work. 50,000 jobs were lost. An estimate of about 10,000 corporate bankruptcies in the months that followed the spill. So my message to everyone is, if you are a business owner in one of those counties, you are by definition a claimant. You should be evaluated. About half of them will qualify for payment, and the average payment is between $100,000 and $200,000.
All right. At this point, is there a deadline to file your claim?
There's not a deadline. There will be a deadline. It has not been set yet, and that's a common misperception. There was a deadline back in April, 6 months ago, April 22nd, but for various legal reasons, it's been extended. Most commentators believe it's probably 6 months from now. My message is, file your claim now, if in doubt. If you don't know, and you're not an economist, business people are busy, they have their daily issues they deal with, they don't recall what happened exactly in various months in 2010. I tell them, if in doubt, go to someone who is experienced in filing these claims and be evaluated. They should do it for free for you and let you know if you qualify or not.
And there are many attorneys who can do that.
There are many attorneys who can do it. Not all of them are experienced in this particular area. As time has gone by, many law firms have gotten out of this claims process. But there are a handful of attorneys that do it. I am one of them. I'm also part of this common benefit attorney team. My mandate is to go out and educate the public, not necessarily just my clients or for my own professional business, but to educate the public about what this claims process is about. And if you don't get help from me, get help from someone, because 1 out of every 2 area businesses will qualify.
My producer Elise found an article in the Times of London that called into question the accuracy of BP's allegations against these claims. What's your reaction to that?
So BP obviously wants to minimize their financial obligations. Wouldn't expect them to do anything less. There are about 200,000 claims filed right now. BP has found maybe a half dozen or so that seem questionable, frivolous in their, to use their terminology. I debate whether they are or not, but that's a half dozen claims out of 200,000. And I will tell you this, if you were not impacted, if you're a business owner and you definitively were not impacted, you will not get paid, and you shouldn't get paid. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. BP just wants everyone to think they were not impacted. I can tell you that this area, again, was devastated because the perception was the oil was coming. Whether the oil actually got here or not, and that's debatable. There are some studies that show some of the trace elements of the oil actually came into Tampa Bay. But again, it's the tourist perception that this disaster was on its way and all the things that led from that.
All right. Tom Young, thank you for your advice, for your knowledge, and we hope that we will help educate others about what they need to do if they have been impacted by that devastating impact 4 years ago. Thank you for joining us. All right. We'll be right back, but first let's take a look at this week's weather.